True. It's beautiful because it's ours. Well, it's the land's, really, and we just finally figured out how to get out of its way. That's what I try to tell anybody who asks, whether they show up with curiosity or just happen to be wandering down the path for the first time since all the drama ended. Sometimes I'll catch myself looking at the ridgeline in the evening, the sky turning that soft peach and violet behind the vines, and think, hell, I never wanted any of this, you know what I mean? I was just a guy coming home because there wasn't anywhere else left to go, picking up the broken pieces my dad left behind, holding them up to the light to see if any of it was worth saving. Turns out, even the pieces that seemed too busted or bitter ended up coming together into something better, something sweeter than I ever expected. And yeah, there are days when the old ghosts wander back, the sound of Karen's heels in the mud, the mailbox stuffed with bogus violation notices, the endless parade of city forms, lawyers, petty threats. It would be easy to stay mad, to stay fighting, but every time I see kids chasing each other between the new rows of lavender or Alma showing off her homemade honey, it gets harder to hold on to that anger. I let it go, like pruning a branch that's grown wild. It hurts, but it's necessary. The land knows. It always did. What happened out here wasn't just about a vineyard or an HOA or some power-hungry board president. It was about a community figuring out who it wanted to be. Was it going to be a place run by fear, by rules that made nobody happy, by people more interested in how things looked than how they felt? Or could it become something looser, messy, but honest, a place where folks looked out for each other, where history mattered, where you could paint your fence purple if you damn well pleased, and nobody would fine you for it? I like to think we chose the better path, even if it took a few floods to wash off the mud. There's a kind of justice in that, a satisfaction you can taste at the end of the day when the sun slips low and the vines cast long shadows across ground that's finally yours. The city might come knocking again someday. Someone new might roll in with fresh schemes or big ideas, but now I know how to handle it. Not with rage, not with panic, just with the quiet, stubborn force of someone who remembers what it felt like to be powerless and refuses to ever feel that way again. So here's my question for anybody listening. When the world tells you to step aside, to sit down, to give up what's yours because it's more convenient for them, what do? Do you play nice and hope it all blows over? Or do you stand up, roots deep, spine straight, and say, not today, not on my land? Because if there's one thing I learned from this whole mess, it's that justice doesn't always show up in a courtroom. Sometimes it looks like a muddy field, a broken sprinkler, or a story that gets told again and again until folks finally remember who they are and what matters most. Anyway, if you've made it this far, maybe you've been through your own battle against an HOA, a bully, a company, or even just that voice in your head that says you're not enough. Don't let them win. Dig in, document everything, get a little creative with your defenses, if you have to, and don't be afraid to call in backup. Because you never know, maybe your fight will be the one that wakes up the whole neighborhood. And hey, if you've got a story of your own, I want to hear it. Drop it in the comments. Let's debate what's right, what's fair, and how we're supposed to find community in a world that's always looking for ways to divide us. Do you think I went too far with the sprinklers? Did Karen get what she deserved? Or was it overkill? What's justice look like in your book? Go ahead, tell me. I'll be out here, boots in the dirt, glass in hand. Grateful for the mess and the miracle of second chances. Absolutely. Here's a direct continuation in the same voice, pace, and cinematic style, moving the story forward as if you're just leaning in for a second round, picking up right where the first script leaves off. No break, just the next breath. You know, after that whole showdown, after the water, the viral videos, the resignation letters, and pie deliveries, most people thought the story was over. Hell, I thought so too for a minute. I was ready to just fade back into the routine, take care of the vines, maybe open the barn on weekends. 4 neighbors who wanted to walk the rows or sit under the fig tree with a cup of coffee. But peace is a funny thing out here. It doesn't always last the way you hope. There's always another storm brewing on the edge of the horizon, and this time, it wasn't the HOA or Karen or even some new would-be tyrant. No, this time, the trouble wore a suit and carried a city badge. It started subtle. Like most things, I'd find a car idling near the edge of the vineyard at odd hours, city plates, tinted windows. Then came the letters. First, it was just a routine zoning assessment, they said. Nothing to worry about, Mr. Rains. We're just updating records. Sure. Next week, a city planner showed up unannounced, wanted to walk the boundaries, take a few photos, understand the topography. The way he said it, you'd think he was on vacation, not fishing for excuses to redraw the lines. At first, I tried to stay calm, cordial, even. Offered him a cup of coffee. Asked if he'd ever worked a vineyard before. He just smiled, said he grew up in the city, didn't know much about plants. I told him a vineyard can sense fear. He laughed, but his eyes darted around. Like he was looking for ghosts. Maybe he found a few. The letters kept coming. Each one a little more official, a little more threatening. Words like eminent domain started slipping in. And I'll tell you, nothing wakes you up in the morning like reading that over a plate of eggs. I called Leah, sent her copies of everything, and before long, she was back out at the barn. Legal pads stacked high, fire in her eyes. They're stalling, she said, flipping through paperwork. If they wanted this done, they'd have scheduled a hearing by now. Somebody's pulling strings. Seeing if you'll blink first. I didn't blink, but I did start sleeping a little less, checking the fences at dawn and dusk, memorizing every inch of the property like I was preparing for another war. Maybe I was. Word got around town again. This time, though, folks rallied quicker. Russ the Marine showed up, this time with a few buddies. All of them veterans, all of them stubborn as rocks. They helped me reinforce the gates, check the motion sensors, even offered to camp out if things got dicey. I told them I appreciated it, but this wasn't a siege, at least, not yet. Still, there was this weight in the air, this sense that we were all holding our breath. The city scheduled a community input session about land use changes. They posted the notice on the bulletin board. Outside the old bakery, probably hoping nobody would notice. But people did. The place was packed. Neighbors, business owners, a couple of reporters, even Councilwoman Hall, who'd helped me before. I stood in the back, let everyone else speak first. And speak they did, about how the vineyard wasn't just dirt and grapes. It was history. It was memory. It was the last patch of land that hadn't been steamrolled into sameness. When my turn finally came, I didn't make a speech. I just told the truth. Told them about my father, about the fight to keep the land, about the mess the HOA left behind. Told them how every time someone tries to improve the place, it ends up losing a little bit of its soul. Maybe that sounds corny, but you could feel the room settle. Sometimes, the quiet says more than any speech. That night, I sat on the porch and watched the lights go out across Willow Creek, one by one. I wondered if any of those city guys ever looked out at the darkness and thought about what gets lost in the name of progress. Probably not. But as long as I was still standing here, I was going to keep reminding them. A week later, the city backed off. Just like that, a terse letter, stamped and sealed, said the reassessment was closed. The land stayed mine. There was no parade, no headlines, just the steady return of birds in the morning and the soft hum of the vines waking up with the sun. For a while, it felt like a real ending. But if there's anything life on this patch of earth taught me, it's that there are no clean endings. There's always another seed waiting under the soil, another challenge, another chance to stand up or let go. The town kept changing. Some folks moved out, new faces moved in. The old HOA board never reformed. Too much bad blood, too much laughter at their expense. Karen's house sat empty until a young couple bought it and planted wildflowers where the hydrangeas used to be. And me? I kept tending the vines, running the veterans program, opening the barn on Sundays for whoever needed a place to breathe. Sometimes, strangers still show up, folks who saw the video online, looking for a piece of the story. I don't turn them away. I let them walk the rows, taste the grapes, listen to the quiet. Because after everything, this place isn't just mine. It's a reminder that you don't have to be the loudest voice in the room to be heard. Sometimes, you just have to stand your ground, roots deep, heart open, stubborn enough to outlast the storm. So tell me, if you were in my boots, would you have fought? Would you have let it go? Or would you have found your own way to water the roots, no matter who tried to dig them up? Let's talk about it. Leave your thoughts below, about land, about justice, about finding home in a world that keeps trying to take it from you. I'll be out here, one eye on the vines, one ear to the ground, waiting for the next story to grow.